And let me welcome everyone to this webinar on social compliance. This webinar that is hosted by USAID Trade and Investment Hub in collaboration with REP. REP is the worldwide responsible accredited production. And the purpose of the webinar is to create awareness on social compliance issues in the garment industry for stakeholders in the Southern Africa region. I had a glance at the registration sheet this morning, and rather this afternoon, actually, I had a view of the registration table, and I saw that we have registered participants from Botswana, we have some from Eswatini, we have some from Lesotho, we have participants from Malawi, we have participants from Mozambique, and participants from South Africa. So I'm really looking forward to good and fruitful discussions this afternoon. And welcome to everyone. My name is Marina Bizabani. I am the country representative for the USAID Trade and Investment Hub. I'm based in Lesotho, in Maseru, Lesotho, and I am based where I am based. I will go straight to the program of the day by introducing to you the Deputy Chief of Party of the USAID Trade and Investment Hub, Mr. George Makore. Mr. George Makore is going to give us some welcome remarks. He is a development professional with over 25 years of experience, mainly in the SADC region. He has worked on programs aimed at enhancing regional integration, strengthening the Southern Africa region's competitiveness, and in roles focusing on trade, investment policy, and communications. Mr. George Makore, may you please take us on with your welcome remarks.
Thank you very much, May Marina, and good afternoon, colleagues, and warm welcome to this, what I consider to be a very important session in our efforts as the USAID Southern Africa Trade and Investment Hub to get you as valued partners to be aware of tools that you can use in order to increase your competitiveness. May Marina, if you could put your mic on mute. Thank you. So what I've been asked to do here, and I know a lot of you already know who we are, considering the number of times we've interacted over the years, but I would still like to quickly remind those that already know what we do, and also create awareness to those that are joining us for the first time on what it is that we do as a USAID Southern Africa Trade and Investment Hub, and where we operate. So we are a USAID funded project. We are based in Pretoria, but we have a footprint in existence in 8 countries in addition to South Africa. We do have presence in Angola, which is our newest country. We also have presence in Botswana, Eswatini, Lesotho, Namibia, South Africa, like I mentioned, and then we also have a presence in Malawi, Mozambique, and Zambia. Before we had an additional country, Angola, we used to call ourselves the SACU plus 3 countries. So we now are SACU plus 4 countries. So in total, we cover 9 countries, as is indicated there. So in those 9 countries, what is it that we do? As a project that has been in existence since October 2016, we are guided by 3 main objectives, and this is what they sort of give us guidance in terms of what we do when we work with you out there. Our first objective or mandate is to help increase exports to South Africa from the 8 countries out of the 9 that I mentioned. And this how we do it is that we identify demand in South Africa for products that can be found in the 8 countries in the region. Then we go out there and also identify potential suppliers of these products. And then we help out with exports or trade between the countries and South Africa. The idea behind this is that South Africa is a huge market with a population of almost 60 million now, and also a huge demand for consumption, local consumption in South Africa itself, or raw materials that can actually be sourced from the region and will be further developed from South Africa and then exported to other parts of the world, including the US, which is our main market. And there are a number of activities that we carry out there to help the companies. Other than identifying buyers and suppliers, we also help with companies being able to comply with market entry requirements, different market entry requirements, such as meeting standards, certification standards, and all those things that would be required for you to be able to navigate the trade sphere. Then the second objective is where we realize that a lot of firms that we deal with, one of the biggest challenges they face is funding in terms of investment of capital and technology. So what we also do is we identify those that would need funding from the 8 countries we operate in, and we also identify potential funders in South Africa who will be willing to expand their footprint into the region in terms of providing the required funds. And we then link those up for potential business, and that will then help the firms to increase their production capacity, also be able to meet other demands that will make them more productive as well as competitive. And in this area, we also look at not only capital in terms of debt, equity, and other forms of capital. We actually also look at capital technology transfer. If there is a firm or interested partner in South Africa willing to provide technology to the firms in the region, we get that linkage to be going. So that's our second objective. The third objective, which involves all the 9 countries we work in, including South Africa this time around, is where we try to help the companies to take advantage of the African Growth and Opportunity Act opportunities in terms of taking advantage of that program to be able to export AGOA eligible products. There are over 6,500 product lines, and are looking at the market in the US to see how best we can assist the firms to be able to export to the US to take advantage of the AGOA program. There are a number of activities that we assist with there, and some of you might have already had that experience. We identify trade promotion service providers that we then work with. We link them up with you to be able to identify, help you identify buyers in the US, or assist you with the efforts in terms of meeting market entry requirements. And one of the reasons why we are here today is to do exactly that, in view of getting you to understand what RAP can do to in the efforts to make you become more competitive and also meet market requirements in the US. And I will leave that to to actually take us through when he comes onto the stage to tell us what RAP can do to assist. So those are the three main objectives that guide us in our work. We, however, have a fourth objective in Zambia, which is mainly based on a buy-in or funding that is there specifically just for Zambia to support Zambia to comply with the WTO, World Trade Organization, Trade Facilitation Agreement. So the work that we do there is mainly to work with the Zambian government to improve the trade environment in line with the requirements from the Trade Facilitation Agreement. And we also have another buy-in on the East African side, which is also aimed at promoting economic activity between the US and the 5 East African countries. So that's the work we do, and that is who we are. Let me just add that in our efforts to ensure that, because I highlighted in the beginning that we're a project, and as a project we have a lifespan, and our lifespan is due to expire at the end of September next year, 30 September. So we already keeping an eye on what is it that we can do to introduce you or make sure that you have the opportunity to work with some of the partners that we've worked with or created during the lifespan of this project. And RAP is one of those partners that we feel you needed to know and you need to interact with right up front so that you can continue to work with RAP even in our absence. Let me stop here and allow you to then listen to the information that you came here for. But that is who we are, and I thought I just needed to highlight that to you. Chair, back to you. Thank you very much. I wish everybody very successful deliberations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. George Makore, for providing that clear information about what we do as a project and for highlighting the lifespan of the project, and that we will be going on with activities only up to September 2022. Before we proceed further, maybe let me just also provide a highlight of how our program is going to unfold today. We've just had Mr. George Makore in there with a welcome address. We are going to have two very interesting presentations from RAP, one specific to social compliance. Then we'll have another one to follow there on RAP certification in terms of processes. We will see what he will entail in there. Then that will be followed by a Q&A session where we can ask any question that we have, any questions that we have, and those will be addressed. And then we will have closing remarks that will also entail next steps, then what after this webinar. But before we proceed, maybe just a few housekeeping issues as we continue. Kindly let's just keep our microphones off when we are not on the podium, just to manage quality of our sound. And as the presentations progress, please do feel free to start posting some of the questions that you have in the chat box. We will be able to extract those questions from the chat box and address them during the Q&A session. Without further ado, please allow me to now introduce our speaker from RAP, Mr. Bart Neliga. He is the Director of Business Development at the Worldwide Responsible Accredited Production, and he joined RAP in 2012 to assist the organization to expand throughout Southern Asia. And he has lived in Asia for 35 years and is quite acquainted with the area. and he is now the Director of Business Development since 2020, and divides his time between Latin America, Africa, the Middle East, and Southeast Asia. We're going to hear from him today on issues around social compliance in the garment, textile and garment export industry in the region. But let me allow you to take us on from here.
Okay, thank you very much. First off, let me say thank you to Mr. George and Ms. Marina for inviting me to participate. As she said, I'm based in Thailand usually. I'm right now in the United States due to some COVID travel restrictions. I've been here for a little while, but my location for my base of operations is Thailand, and I travel based out of there. As she stated, I've been with WRAP for 8 years, and I've been in the industry for 25 years before I came to WRAP, sourcing and procurement and production. I would like to say I'm going to do 2 short presentations. I will go through the slides fairly quickly, but the slides will be available to you. I've produced them in PDF format and given them to Ms. Marina, and she can send them out to all attendees. So you don't have to take notes, and you certainly don't have to stop to ask any specific question on a slide. You can always contact me later. We can certainly contact me during the Q&A session here, but you can contact me later through email or phone calls. And when travel starts opening up, I'll be out and about, and we can meet, and I can assist anybody in any way, information-based or WRAP-based, whichever you prefer. I'm going to shut off my camera now and share my slides. They will go by fairly quickly, as I stated, but they'll be available later. So let's see if I can make this happen. See how technically adept I am, shall we? See if I got it here. I've got the main setup. I don't have the one more second. Is it sharing?
Yes, it's sharing now, but
You see it. You see the full slide. What is social compliance and why is it so important?
Yes, we see it, but it's in presenter mode. We're seeing your presenter view.
Yeah, I'm trying to get it in the other mode. I thought I had it.
I help go to display settings, Pat, on top there. Click there and show duplicate or swap presentation.
Now, do you see it?
Yes.
Yes.
Now.
Yes.
Okay, very good. All right. So what is social compliance and why is it so important? The agenda is going to be very quick. We're going to talk about why social compliance is important and why it is a responsible business imperative to be responsible, to perform responsible sourcing. We'll talk about the business case for compliance and a quick overview of compliance and current trends and best practices for social compliance. And then I'll have a conclusion. The Q&A won't be after this session. We'll have a quick session about, I'll do both my presentations back to back and then we'll do Q&A. All right, why is social compliance so important? Warren Buffett, who's one of the wealthiest men in the world, said it takes 20 years to build a reputation and 5 minutes to ruin it. And if you think about that, you'll do things differently. If you think back about the occurrences in Bangladesh and the Rana Plaza and how that building collapsed and so many people died, there was so much business in Bangladesh at that time, but within a matter of weeks, much of it shifted out of that country. All those years of good experience and 2 or 3 manufacturers in one building created havoc for the country for years and years to come. So reputation can be ruined in just a few minutes. So the world is watching us right now. All the news cycles, the Twitter and Facebook and anything that happens anywhere in the world will be seen and transferred to the general public within a matter of minutes, sometimes seconds. If something happens in Botswana, 25 minutes later, the entire world knows. So we as factories have a responsibility to do the right thing and take care of our factories and take care of our employees. One, because it's the right thing to do. But two, it's not just our reputation that's on the line, it's the entire country's reputation. 2 or 3 bad factories in Bangladesh ruined the entire industry for Bangladesh for years and years. So we have a responsibility to our people, to our employees, to our industry, but also to our countries. And we should do the right thing. If doing the right thing, just because it's the moral and right thing to do, to have a social compliance system in place to be sure that we're taking care of things legally and morally, if that's not enough, it comes down to a business imperative. You want to do the right thing, a moral reason, but you should also want to do it as a business imperative to protect your company. Social compliance equals risk management. It's that simple. A proper social compliance system is a tool to help you with risk management. Social compliance verification is becoming an increasingly important aspect of supply chain management, and things that happen in an instant, because like we said, in communication, something that happens in one country can be transferred throughout the entire world in a matter of minutes. As a result, business imperative social compliance is clear both for the buyers and the sellers to ensure risk management and business continuity. The brands or the buyers, if they purchase from a factory that is not compliant, their customers turn on them. Again, with the social networking, people get on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter or something else and say, oh, don't buy from XYZ company because they purchase from terrible factories. So there's so much at risk here, and we need to manage that risk with a good social compliance program. So a good social compliance program can protect your organization. It can help with return on investment. It's a systemic or a system approach to management, which we have business common sense, but sometimes social common sense is something that takes a little bit of practice and experience to learn. There are direct business benefits to having a social compliance program. More efficient production. Savings include raw materials and energy costs. You have lower worker turnover. And of course, you satisfy your clients' requirements if they require a social compliance program. Whoops, sorry, that slide went too fast. Social compliance is risk management. So it's a systemic system for managing your risk. That's very important to remember. It's a tool. Many of us look at social compliance as a headache. Oh, people are coming in to perform an audit and it's causing me trouble. It's not. It's a tool that you use for your benefit. I think we all know that almost every social compliance program in the world is based on the ILO standards, the International Labor Organization standards. And I'm going to go through these very quickly just so that we all know what we're talking about. I'm not going to discuss them at this point. But if you want to have more details later, I can share with you via email or phone call or face-to-face meetings. We have obedience and compliance with laws and regulations. That is one of the ILO principles. No forced labor. And forced labor is a very broad subject right now. We'll talk about that in business trends. It's not just, prison labor, but forcing someone to work overtime when they don't want to. Overtime needs to be voluntary. There are a lot of aspects of forced labor. No child labor, which of course is very clear to most of us. And people ask me about child labor all the time. Good factories who want to deal with international customers don't have problems with child labor, but it still exists in some places, but not for the people who are seeking to follow compliance regulations. But it's still an issue in some countries and something that we have to discuss. No inappropriate discipline or harassment or abuse. Proper compensation and benefits. And again, we follow the law of the local land. In Vietnam, there are 35 or probably more different minimum wages, depending on which province or which city you live in. And so it's a complicated issue, but compensation and benefits has to be evaluated by country, by province, by city sometimes. Hours of work, and this differs all over the world. What is a proper amount of work for each week? What is overtime? How is that processed? And so it's a key topic in many places. It becomes an issue when we start doing piece rate, where people are paid by the piece. Are they properly working the correct hours, even though when they're doing piece rate? Are they properly paid the correct wage when they're doing piece rate? So it's an issue that needs to be discussed. Discrimination, no discrimination in the workplace. Health and safety is a big issue, and sometimes we get so busy working, and factories are dynamic places that health and safety sometimes get pushed aside, not because of lack of focus or lack of desire, but because of business gets in the way sometimes, and I'll discuss that a little bit more later. Freedom of association and collective bargaining. The environment, more and more focus is being placed on the environment and what needs to be done to keep our cities, our countries, and the world cleaner and livable place. And customs compliance, this will follow the applicable customs. The main issue here is illegal transshipment. Something made in country X is shipped to country B so that it can be shipped to the United States if X is not allowed to ship to the United States. So customs compliance is a key issue. And lastly, security. And security is an issue we'll discuss about when we talk about certification with WRAP in the next presentation. Security is a key issue, and that's mostly what we call CTPAT, trying to avoid inappropriate things being shipped into countries that are purchasing the product. Okay, so we can talk about those more in detail, and if you have questions, you can come back and I can address any of those issues with you in detail. I know it's a lot of information, but almost all programs of social compliance are based on the ILO standards. WRAP took 12 principles. Some companies say there's 10 principles. We added principle 12, which is security, which makes it 12. So we can discuss that later. Social compliance insights and trends. There's the challenge of uncertainty in the markets these days and in politics these days. There's uncertainty and challenges with what we talked about before, worldwide communication, 24/7, instant communication, the prevalence of social media. It's a tough area that has to be addressed. There's trends in sourcing. There's constant change. The traditional destination is no longer as dominant. Everything used to be sourced recently in China. A lot of that is moving away. A lot of it's moving to other locations due to cost, due to convenience, due to politics. There's trade wars. China is plateauing. Bangladesh is still challenging after all these years. Vietnam is growing despite the fall of the TPP, but the rise of some other trade agreements. So things are happening all over the world. India is modified. Africa is increasing interest. Everyone's interested in Africa, but where's the volume for that? That's still to be determined. So there's a lot of interesting things happening, but there are constant changes in sourcing. There's another trend, which is the consolidation of vendors. Some buyers who were buying from 1,000 vendors are now trying to narrow that down to only 600 or 500 vendors. So it's a key issue, and it's challenging for factories and suppliers. And social compliance is a key factor in decision making for most brands now. There's been an evolution over the past 2 decades from comply or die to continuous improvement. And I'll discuss that in the next slides. But it used to be, if this factory doesn't do what we want, then we won't use the factory. But the trend now, and for the last 15 years, has been, let's work with the factories, let's help them improve. If you cut a factory off, that doesn't help the factory, that doesn't help the workers. But if you work with them and say, okay, you have a few problems, we'll work with you as long as you agree to improve, that's a positive thing for the industry. We're trying to help the industry and the people become better, and it helps the workers in the long run. There are more partnerships, and there are different players at different places today. It applies to both ends of the supply chain. Trends in social compliance continue. Social compliance is becoming mainstream. More external collaboration and internal cross-training. It's moving up the supply chain. It's no longer just the first tier customers. It's not just the people who are making the garments, but their supplier of materials, the supplier of thread, the suppliers of packaging, even the suppliers of the materials, the suppliers of the dyes. So it's becoming more and more farther up the chain. And there's more regulatory activity, both domestic and international. There's increased transparency, what we talked about before. People are visiting the factories, people are taking pictures and documenting things that take place in the factory. There's engagement with the supply chain. There's increased collaboration within trusted relationships. There's an increased role for technology. A lot of factories now have facial scan. When you walk in, they scan your face. They know exactly who is where and what effort they're doing and exactly what time they're checking in or checking out. When guests are coming, it's all very high tech these days. Current hot topics: human trafficking, forced labor, increased attention to migrant labor issues. Working hours and wages is a hot topic in social compliance right now. There's more transparency and harmonization and standardization. Brands are looking for partners and having less reliance on their own programs. Many large brands, like let's take Walmart for example, had their own social compliance programs, but they've stopped that now and they're using people like WRAP and other firms to handle their social compliance, because they're looking for a standardization or a harmonized approach to social compliance. Best practices. Auditing is not enough. Social compliance is a two-way street. It's not just we just audit and then you move on, and we can talk about that again in more detail, but it's a very key element of the trends in social compliance right now. Engagement is necessary at all levels, and understanding the practical challenges faced and being consistent with the message. No disconnect between sourcing and compliance. That's a very important business practice, best practices that's taking place right now. And they're building partnerships, continuous improvement, ongoing training and education. What to look for when the brand is looking for a compliant firm? They're looking for commitment from the top. Management systems approach, a systems approach to managing their compliance, maintaining document support, and continuous engagement with all stakeholders, including employees, and training is key for that. Best practices continued. Must integrate social compliance objectives with general management systems. This is what brands are looking for. They're looking for engaging with all stakeholders to build relationships. Fostering trust is key to greater transparency. And auditing is the base of the process. Auditing is not an end of itself. You don't do the audit and you're done, but you need continuous improvement based on those audits. The audit is the tool to help you manage and take care of your risk. And of course, education is essential. Summary. I know this is fast, but you can review these later and we can talk about them later. Today's supply chain is fragmented, it's complex, it's worldwide, it's complicated by the fact that modern technology allows for instant communication. There's no hiding anything anymore. You can hide something for a little while, but in the end, it all comes out. Any event anywhere in the world now appears on CNN or BBC, Facebook, Twitter within a matter of minutes or hours. Reputation and supply chain management are global issues with very high stakes. Conclusion, social compliance certification has become a global sourcing imperative as an increasingly important aspect of supply chain management in today's value chain. And a properly implemented and credibly certified social compliance system serves the dual purpose of meeting the buyer requirements, as well as increasing worker efficiency and morale, and thereby improving productivity and profitability. And there, I'm just going to shoot up the 12 principles again. Compliance, forced labor, child labor, harassment, compensation, hours of work, no discrimination, health and safety, freedom of association, environment, customs, and security. It looks simple, it's straightforward. Those all break down into many, many details, but it is pretty straightforward. And it's mostly common sense. Social compliance truly is common sense. The problem is we get so wrapped up in the business that the common sense leaves the window sometimes and we forget what we're focusing on, and we need to go back and have a system approach for social compliance. Okay, that's it. Let me go, how do I stop sharing here? Okay. I know that was fast. We're going to go to the next one here, and I'm going to do this one is an introduction to WRAP and how you certify with WRAP. It's pretty straightforward. Let's see if I can do this again. I have to share the right presentation again in just a second. Do you see the proper one?
Yes, I see.
Is anybody there?
We can just swap the presenter view.
I have to swap again? Okay.
Yes, it's
all right.
It's okay now.
Again, this will be fairly quick, but it will. We can talk about the details later with anybody who wants to follow up. Okay, WRAP is the world's largest independent factory-based certification program focused on apparel, footwear, and sewn products. There are other programs and there are larger ones that are based on maybe hard lines or food, but we're focused on footwear, apparel, and sewn products. We inspect and certify factories all over the world. We're a nonprofit team of global experts dedicated to promoting safe, lawful, humane, and ethical manufacturing. And we're the program of choice for many industry associations, the American Apparel and Footwear Association. We're the official corporate social responsibility partner. There's the 12 principles that we talked about before. We can go over those again sometime in detail with you individually if you have questions. Security is an important one. When WRAP added that, if you have a WRAP certification, you also have CTPAT certification. It's included in our system. 12 is a very important one. RAPs worldwide. We have offices in Arlington, Virginia. We have an office in Hong Kong, office in Bangladesh, staff in Latin America, Europe, India, Southeast Asia. I'm based in Thailand. You'll notice that we don't have anybody in Africa. That's a problem for us right now. Africa is becoming a key player and expanding. Numerous countries are, and that's a key area, and that's why I've been assigned to deal with and promote business in Africa and assist factories in Africa. So it's a key issue. I'm embarrassed that there's nobody there and there's no office or any people there, but we're going to work on that in this next couple of years. We're the leading independent certification program. We're independent. That means that we don't do the audits. We have we inform, well, I'll get down to that, but we inform other people, we inform factories who they can use, who we have approved to perform the audit, and then we review that audit program and certify. These are the top 10 countries for 2020. There were 3,000 applications in 2020, and out of those, 2,800 were approved. And no one's ever, very few are ever approved the first time. Some changes and corrective action plans that need to take place. But right now there are 2.8 million workers in 40 countries that are being taken care of by RAP certification. Okay, the certification process is pretty straightforward. There's a factory section and there's a RAP section. The factory has step 1, 2, 3, 4, and RAP takes care of step 5, 6, 7. We'll go over the factory portion very quickly here, but it's very straightforward. There's an application online via the RAP website. You complete the application and provide contact information. It's important to provide contact information that will survive personnel changes. If you have Bubba be the contact person and then Bubba gets promoted or leaves the company and he takes with him his email address, now RAP can't contact you. So you need to have an email contact or telephone and address contact that can survive personnel changes if someone leaves. Then there's a registration. You submit a completed application along with a registration fee, $1,195. That has not changed in 10 years, to RAP USA headquarters. Factories are given a 6-month validity period after they pay the fee. I'll talk about that a little bit. There's a 6-month window that you have to complete the certification. Then there's a self-assessment. After the registration is finalized, the factory needs to complete a self-assessment questionnaire. It's pretty heady. It's pretty complicated. It's over 80 pages. But the completed questionnaire is the exact audit that you're going to go through. So if you can go through that questionnaire and address the issues and correct any problems that have taken place in your factory before the audit, before the actual formal audit, it's the exact same thing that's going to be asked of you later. So the self-assessment questionnaire is very helpful. That completed questionnaire has to be returned to the factory's chosen audit monitor. We'll discuss that in a minute, and to the RAP office 15 days before the 4-week audit window. What that means is when the auditors come to perform the audit, it's blind. You don't know when they're coming. They just show up one day because they don't want you to specially prepare for that. But they give you a 4-week window. They say, we will be coming to visit you between this date and this date. So you have some knowledge that they're coming, but it's not an exact date. Anyway, that questionnaire has to be completed and submitted to them 15 days before that 4-week window. There's a helpful hint. Remember I said you have 6 months to complete the certification. So what we suggest is do step 3 before you do step 1. That means I'm going to go to the next slide. Do the self-assessment, not the formal self-assessment, not the one you submit, but do a self-assessment before you make the application, before you make the registration, because that allows you to find problems, any non-compliances. You can go through the list and see, oh, we don't have our exit doors marked properly, or we don't have lighting properly. You can fix all those problems before you make your application and before your registration. That way you're not spending several weeks or months fixing things after you've already made your application. Because if you do that, the 6-month window may close before you complete. So do step 3 before you do step 1 formally. Okay, then the evaluation and the audit itself. This is an unannounced visit. You schedule the audit with one of RAP's accredited third-party audit companies or monitor firms. Factories choose the audit from a RAP accredited monitor list available for each specific country. The one monitor may be approved in country A, but may not be approved in country B. You can get on our website, you can find out exactly who is approved in your country and find out and choose. We don't want to say you must use this auditor, this audit firm, because then that's not an arm's length relationship. You don't have freedom to choose for yourself. So you choose for yourself, and then factories contact that chosen audit firm to complete an audit after you've submitted the questionnaire. All WRAP auditors are conducted by qualified auditors from all WRAP audits, are conducted by qualified auditors from a list of independent audit companies, which are accredited by WRAP. WRAP qualified auditors in those firms have attended a 5-day WRAP auditor training course, which is accredited by IRCA, and they have lots of experience. They can't even take the course unless they have enough experience to qualify for that course. So they're talented auditors, and they know their job. The audit is unannounced, and it includes a facility tour. It includes employee interviews and both individual and group tour interviews. It includes management interviews and document review. Again, this is a lot of information and it's fast, but I can give you more details later one-on-one if you want. Auditing culture has evolved. Like I told you before, comply or die to continuous improvement. We no longer go into a factory and say, oh, you're bad, we're not going to use you. Auditors' objective is not to find fault. It used to be 20 years ago, the auditors had to justify who they were. So they would look for a problem and they would find that problem and point it out. Now, auditors' goal is to confirm compliance. The brand wants to know, is this a good factory? Auditors go in and they're an extra set of eyes and they help the factory and they help find what needs to be corrected. Oh, that went fast. A perfect factory this minute can have non-compliances 10 minutes later. What that means is factories are dynamic things. They change very quickly. I can go into a factory that passes an audit right now and he's perfect. And in the afternoon, some materials come in a day early that they weren't expecting and they quickly shove them into a corner. And by doing so, they block 2 fire extinguishers. So they were perfect at 10 a.m., but at 2 p.m., they have non-compliances. We understand that. Auditors understand that, and they take that into consideration. They're not looking to cause you problem. They're there as an extra set of eyes to help you confirm compliance to your customers. Okay, that's the first part, was what the factory has to do. And it's a lot of work, but once you do it the first year and you get your approval and you get your certification, follow-up years are very easy and very straightforward. Now we'll look at what WRAP does. WRAP reviews the audit performed by the monitor firm. And as a result of that, there are 2 options. Result number 2, which we all love, WRAP may recommend to the certification board that the factory be certified. That usually doesn't happen the very first time. Usually there's some pushback by the review board saying there's a couple of issues that we'd like corrected. We'd like verification on a few things. Those items may be, the factory will be notified by WRAP's board and will be instructed to make a couple corrections, and those corrections can be done very quickly, and then the audit can be completed, and the corrective action can be completed, and the audit can be submitted again, and certification be resulted. Certification, the office studies the recommendation by the staff certification board, and they look at the formal audit, they look at reports, and then they vote to award or withhold certification. The factory will receive an electronic copy of the certificate, which will be followed by an original, which will be sent by mail. Certification, there's 3 levels: platinum, valid for 2 years, gold, valid for 1 year, and silver, valid for 6 months. About 70% of the factories that we audit have gold. 25, if they've had no NCs for 3 consecutive years, they can get a 2-year certification. 25, 1/4 of all WRAP factories are gold or silver, or sorry, platinum. They've done it enough, and the 2nd year and 3rd year is easy. By the 4th year, they can just have no issues and they get a 2-year status. Silver is granted for factories who have some issues that they can't quite qualify for gold, but we'll work with them if they're willing to demonstrate to the brand that they're willing to improve. And the brands approve that and say, okay, we'll work with this factory while you and WRAP try and help them improve their status. Post-certification assessment, we go in, WRAP goes in ourselves, not the auditors, not the monitor firms. We go in and we do random, unannounced, limited scope audits, and we look at things. It doesn't cost the factory any money. It's usually WRAP staff. Sometimes it's a monitor firm. We have their help in some issues in some locations. It's like South Africa. We've had some of the monitor firms go in and help us perform those post-certification assessments in factories. Why WRAP? WRAP certifications mean your facility is currently meeting or exceeding international social compliance standards. provides a level of assurance to potential buyers that it is widely recognized and accepted, and it helps you secure your supply chain. You can raise your profile in the eyes of notable brands and retailers that accept WRAP's audit. There's a form I can send you. It's called YWrap, and it's got contacts of many of the larger brands who accept WRAP. I do want to say Africa is important to WRAP. I'm Bart. That's my major focus coming up. As travel opens up, I hope to be able to meet a lot more of you face to face and actually help and assist with understanding more about compliance and about WRAP. And you can contact me with any questions or any needs for assistance. And that's it. Now I got to learn how to unshare this. Okay, is it gone?
Yes, it is.
Okay, I know that was fast, so go ahead.
Thank you, Bart.
Turn it back to Maureen.
Yes, it was fast. I also saw some comments in the chat that it's very fast. So if they could get the presentations after, maybe let me assure everyone that you will get the presentations. Everybody's going to get the 2 presentations after this session. Some interesting nuggets there. It takes 20 years to build a reputation, 5 minutes to ruin it. The world is watching. Country reputations are at stake as well, not just companies. Social compliance is a tool, not a headache. It's a tool to help with risk management, the systemic approach to management. Social compliance has become a key consideration when making sourcing decisions, and it is about continuous improvement as opposed to comply or die. I saw a couple of questions in the chat that we can take now and have Bart address for us. And if you do have a question as we continue, you can also raise your hand. We will notice and then we will give you time to ask the question. But I see a question on whether you're aware how many factories have WRAP certification in South Africa.
Yeah, I'm looking that up right now. On our website, you can click on an interactive map by country, and it will tell you how many are certified in there. I'm trying to filter through that right now. Let's see if I can do that, but I'll look for that. Someone asked also, why is there no WRAP staff in in Africa, in any of the African countries? That's a good question. Let me just say, we have been focusing on where the work was, where the brands were doing most of their work. Africa, like I said, is becoming very important. Several of the key countries are very important for the brands. As the brands move there, WRAP will move there. And that's been my area of assignment right now, is to focus on Africa. The difficult thing, of course, is travel right now. The last 2 years, we wanted to expand into Africa a couple of years ago, but travel has made it very difficult. But we are looking to expand into Africa. Again, Africa is such a big place. When people say Africa, it's so huge. It's not that simple. So being in selecting the right place. We're fairly large in Egypt. We're fairly large in Madagascar, Mauritius, Morocco, and South Africa, Lesotho, there's a fair amount. So we're getting there, but I'm trying to set this filter up. But let's look at another question.
Okay, and maybe also if you are able to, we can share it at a later stage, share the link to the website so that any other country that may want to check how many WRAP certified suppliers are in their countries, they can just go there and filter.
Yes, ma'am, and it's on my last slide with my contact information.
Okay, thank you very much. There's another question here from Krishna. Says they've been audited and registered with SEDEX and QIMA. Will this help to get registered with WRAP, certified with WRAP?
That's a really good question. Remember, all compliance programs are based on the ILO, which is the International Labour Organization. So I would say 80 to 90% of it is there if you're registered with another group like SEDEX or QIMA. The one issue is there are always some subtle differences. Some firms look at a living wage, while RAP looks at the requirement by the local law. I always kid people with a living wage. I'm married, I have 3 children. My brother's married and has 12 children. Our living wage is not the same because he needs more money than I do. So how do you say this is a living wage for one person in one province and another person in another province? That's always been difficult for me to understand. We look at the law. The law says in this province, the minimum wage is X. In the other province, the minimum wage is Y. We can measure, we can evaluate correctly something like the law. It's hard to justify or measure a minimum wage, a living wage. Also with SEDEX and KEMA, they do not handle the Principle 12, which is security, CTPAT. So you have to get a SEDEX audit and a registration and certification, and then you also have to go out and do a CTPAT certification. We combine them together. We've just made that SOP, standard operating procedure, because most of North America and most of Europe now requires some type of trade agreement with customs safety, CTPAT. The other thing is, so the simple answer is yes, if you've got this other certification, it helps. What RAP's trying to do is we go to people like Walmart. Several years ago, Walmart didn't accept RAP. We go to them and say, accept RAP. Why make a factory get a SEDEX and a KEMA and a Walmart and something else? If you accept RAP, then one audit at a factory could satisfy 15 or 16 customers. Each customer, each brand does not need to have its own audit. If it's a harmonized, standardized approach, then it helps everybody save time and effort. So that's why we say RAP.
Thank you for that.
Yes, you can.
Krishna,
I'm looking at the next question. Sorry, self-assessment form. You can get that online. You can go to rapcompliance.org and you can get that self-assessment form. It's in several languages, but it's in English and you can download it free right now. There's no issues. Even if you don't use RAP, use our assessment form. It's very helpful no matter who you're doing an audit through.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Let's also take the next question before I take a hand. I saw a hand. How big should a factory facility be for it to be certified by RAP?
That's a very good question as well. We have small ones. We have some that have 20 people in them. We have some that have 15,000 people in them. So it really doesn't matter. It depends on your customer. If your customer requires that you have a certification from a compliance, social compliance program and a certification, if you have 10 employees, it's okay. It could be cost prohibitive because you're paying the same fee for a 15,000 factory as you are for a 20-person factory. However, the audit cost is not the same. An audit firm going in and auditing a 15,000 employee factory may take 2 or 3 days to perform the audit. So their fee, which is separate from RAP's fee. RAP has a one-time fee, $1,195 for registration and certification. The auditor will charge another fee. If you have a small factory, it will be a smaller fee because he takes less man-hours to perform the audit. But any customer who demands that you have a social compliance program, if you have 5 or 5,000 employees, can be certified by RAP.
Thank you. Thank you for the responses. But is that Banusi?
Yes, good afternoon.
Yes.
Thank you, Chair, for choosing my hand. And thanks, Bet, for the great presentation. Earlier on, when Mr. George Makore was giving in the opening remark, he did mention the 6,000 plus products for the AGOA dispensation. So I wonder whether there could be a standing arrangement with the Trade Hub for them to have a firm collaboration with the REP, since it is very evident that those 6,000 plus products that are going into the US market would really need a compliance to meet compliance issues by all potential exporters going forward, because the market access efforts that you are doing to open the AGOA market for Africa will definitely need to be accompanied by a firm collaboration with such an organization. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Banisi, for that comment. I see George's hand to comment or react on that. Yes, please, George.
Thank you very much, Arina, and thanks, Banisi. Good to see you or hear from you. The collaboration is you very good. You're making a very good point there. We have seen the importance of bringing on board as part of our partners, as one of our partners, RAP. We've been working with RAP for quite a while, but what I can say now is that if, for example, as the chair of the textiles and apparel producers in Botswana, if you have members that are ready to get certification, ask them to reach out to Harriet or Francis. They're both here. Harriet is our country rep for Botswana, to find out how we can work with that firm to assist the firm to get the certification that is required. We do have a cost sharing arrangement that we do with firms that are looking for assistance in different areas, and what the RAP certification is one of the areas that we can actually provide cost sharing services. We pay 60% of the cost for the certification, which is quite substantial. I suggest that you can actually reach out to Harriet, or you can reach out to me, and we can have those discussions targeted at the firms in Botswana that would be looking at using the RAP certification or RAP services. I hope that answers your question. I can also bring in that in here if you have any additional information.
Thank you very much, George, for that response. And yes, indeed, that also applies to all other participating firms here. Towards the end of the session, we will also share contacts of country representatives in each of the countries. So please feel free to reach out to those country representatives to guide you on the process going forward. Are there any other questions in the chat?
I saw one by Mr. Mohammed Saeed, but I typed the answer. He asked if platinum firms are also have PCAs, and they do. It's something that we use as a gauge to verify that the monitor firms are doing their job. Sometimes we find that monitor firms are not doing a proper job, and we have to stop working with that monitor firm until they prove their processes. But it's a random review, about 10% of factories. However, we do more than 10% in some countries like Bangladesh and Myanmar. Both of those have another issue, which is structural integrity of their buildings. So we go in and perform, we require that they have a third-party structural engineer go in and perform a structural engineering review. And so we go in and look at those to be sure they are done. So we look at many more than 10% in Bangladesh, but worldwide it's around 10 or 15% of factories are PCA'd once a year. But it's a good question.
Thank you, Bart. During registration, we also had a few questions coming in there that I think you did respond to most of them really. And then there's one that I think maybe you could talk to. Can I use the REP certificate for other international markets? How does REP certificate help me for other markets other than the US?
Yeah, and that's a really good question too. In fact, let's say you have a factory and you have a Walmart customer and you have a Costco customer, but then you have a new customer come in who's, I'm going to make it up, Marina company. She sells shoes, and so Marina has a new company and she's selling shoes, and she comes to you and says, I need a compliance program. You can go to her and say, will you accept RAP? And she may say, I've never heard of them. Our USA office will actually go talk to your brand or your customer and instill in them an understanding of RAP and why they can accept RAP. If they say we want a different compliance program, then you can say, hey, well, I've already got a compliance program in place. Will you work with us? We'll work with your team. Your question was about other countries, and yes, RAP certification is accepted in Australian brands. RAP certification is accepted in many European brands. RAP certification is accepted in some South American brands. So it's worldwide. It's most well known in North America, United States, and Canada, but it's spreading quickly in other countries. I'm working with people in Japan and South Korea for some brands, and Mexico. That large brand in Mexico called Liverpool, they have 400 stores in the country. They're big like Macy's in the United States, and they said, we need something. Our customers are demanding some kind of compliance program and we don't know where to go. We're working with them and helping them to understand how to share with their customers what RAP is. The problem is it's the end user. It's the person who buys the jacket who wants to know that the item's made in a safe factory, and they don't know who RAP is. But the person they buy from, the brand they buy from, can say, we buy from reputable factories because we have a certification process in place. So it's a good question, but yes, it's expanding quite a bit actually. I just saw another question. How long is RAP certification valid for? 1 year if it's gold, 6 months if it's silver, 2 years if it's platinum. So you have to recertify every year. Again, factories are dynamic. Changes take place every day. So to just get certified 1 year and just think it's going to be good for the next year, brands don't trust that. They want to be sure that still got hiring practices, laws change, minimum wages change, has the factory changed with the laws. So it's you're re-audited and recertified every year, unless you're platinum. If you have 3 years in a row with no issues, we'll grant you a 2-year certification. And on your certification form, it says that 2-year certification platinum, 6-month certification silver. On a silver certification, it states why. They have some problems with safety issues, and it will list exactly what the issues are and on the certification. And it will say there's an objective in place to correct this within 4 months. And so if a brand comes in and looks at the factory and sees the RAP certification certificate on the wall, they can look at it and tell exactly what issues were found and why and what's being done to correct them. But the typical is 1 year.
Thank you for that response, Bart. There is a supplier who would like to know how you would advise them on a small enterprise with limited staff, how they can comply with many dedicated HR responsibilities required by RAP.
Yeah,
and
it's tough.
that have limited staff. What do you advise them?
Their RAP is starting this next year a rollout of a new program, which is going to be a pilot program for reduced fees for smaller factories to get a certification. We're going to try that. We'd like to do that because I know some like Sedex is cheaper. Sedex, some of these some of these compliance firms are membership firms. They're not really a third-party certification. You become a member of their association, and it's not really arm's length certification in some cases. RAP believes we still want that, but we know sometimes it's a burden for some of the smaller facilities. So we're trying a pilot program where we half price fee for RAP certification. Certainly the audit fee is less because it's a smaller factory. But the fact is, if you're a 10,000 person factory or a 100 person factory, you need to follow the same protocols and the same 12 principles. And like I said, the questionnaire is 84 pages long. It's detailed. There's a lot of explanation in there and examples in there, and so it's not all questions, but it's those 12 principles. Even if you're a small facility, are you hiring correctly? Are you paying correctly? Is overtime voluntary? Do you have safety procedures in place? Do all your doors, emergency doors, open out? Do you have emergency lighting? Do you have exit signs? Do you have fire extinguishers? So it is a headache, even though you're smaller, but because you're smaller, you should have less financial costs to implement those safety procedures and health procedures. But from an HR perspective, it's the same headache whether you're 10,000 or 100 people, because you have to go through every single clause in the audit and verify that your company conforms to those regulations. And remember, those regulations are they're not RAP regulations, they're your government regulations. If your government was performing audits, you'd have to do it to have your government approve it. WRAP does it for the brand. It says, we look at this factory and the factory is compliant to its own government's regulations. So it's a good factory for you to buy from. But you should be complying anyway for two reasons. It's the right thing to do to take care of your people and to take care of your business. And two, it's the legal thing that you're supposed to be doing anyway. But it's a headache for smaller firms. I understand that.
Winglo Fashion Academy would like to know what the average auditing fee is.
That's a good question. It's so different based on factory size and location. Let me take an example. Myanmar used to be called Burma, which is in Southeast Asia. To get an auditor to go to Myanmar, we don't have any certified auditors trained in Myanmar, so someone has to fly from Bangkok, Thailand, and they have to hire an interpreter, and then they have to stay on site for 2 or 3 days. So that same audit performed in a factory in Thailand would be much cheaper. But I'm just going to say it's, depending on the factory, in-country audits, $1,000, $2,000, depending on how many people. The larger the facility, the more man hours it takes to perform that audit. The walkthrough is larger, takes more time. The interviews, there's a larger percentage of a larger number of people that have to be interviewed. Documentation is more difficult, so it takes more time. We don't determine the audit fee. That's why we say, here's 3 auditing firms you can choose. Select the one you want, and you can pick them and talk to each of them and see what their cost is. But it's pretty standard cost within any given country. It's just that different countries and different factory sizes impact that cost.
Thank you. But Mayor Majara, I see you've asked how many Lesotho factories are REP certified. We will share that link where you can check the countries. I don't know, unless if you had it open with you, because
I just looked at it and it's not letting me filter. I don't know why. I'll get on with the US office this morning and find out what's going on. The filter system isn't filtering by country. I got the whole world, which is crazy. So I got to filter by country. I do know there's like 4 or 5 Lesotho factories. I don't know how many South African. We were working with a couple of Lesotho factories not long ago, so I knew there were 4 or 5 certified in Lesotho. I do know, like on the top 10 list, I said there were like 600 in China and 500 in Vietnam. But African countries, I'll have to get on the website and look. But let me check that, and I can. If that person wants to send me an email, I will send them the link, and I will also try and get the filter set up and send them the answer. So my email address is on the last slide, and you can send me an email, and I will answer any questions you have.
Thank you. I'll take this last question here just to clarify. Toki wants to just clarify whether the auditing and registration fees are the same. I don't think they are the same. Okay, but maybe let me let you respond to that.
They're not the same. You register with WRAP, and what WRAP does for that fee is we review the audit that is performed by someone else. So the audit fee is by the auditors or the monitor. A monitor firm has auditors working for them. That's like Intertek or SGS or Bureau Veritas, okay? That's an audit firm. You pay them a fee to audit. We don't know what that fee is. We're not involved in that. They do the audit based on our protocol, and they submit that audit to you and to us, and then we review that audit. If you were to pay WRAP to come in and do an audit, then the brand might say, of course WRAP passed you, they want your money. We don't do the audit. We don't determine what's good or what's bad. We review the audit because sometimes auditors will send the information and then WRAP has a team, a board that looks at that audit, and we review that, and then we certify or do not certify the factory. So the certification fee is for posting your information on the web, for performing the review of the audit, and for working with you to do corrective action plans for items that need to be improved in the factory. But then we do not perform the audit. That's done by an audit firm. So it's 2 separate fees. So let's say you pay $1,195 to WRAP. You may have paid $1,500 to the audit firm. So it's $2,300 to get a certification when you look at both fees, for example.
Thank you for the response, Bart, and thank you for those questions to those that posed some questions. We did have a few more questions that came in with the registration, and quite a number of them were on exporting to the US market. And for those specific questions on exporting to the US market, I will maybe request one of my colleagues to post 2 links in the chat. These links are to some of our previous webinars, that focus specifically on export into the US market. And they will provide you with very comprehensive information on those matters. I saw questions on critical requirements to be addressed to make an export success. I saw questions on rules of origin. I saw a question on steps to take before exporting to the US market. I saw a question on the processes to export to the US market. What are the shipping requirements? So those two, we have one webinar that is on exporting to the US market, and one is on cross-border facilitation. So those should be able to help you to answer some of the questions that you have. But if one still has questions after watching the webinars, please do feel free to reach out to your USA Trade Hub country representative with specific questions, and then the country rep will be able to assist. I said we are going to post their contact towards the end of the webinar. Let me thank everyone for your participation in this question and answer session, but I see your hand.
Yes, I was going to say one more thing. That last question about regulations for exporting, that was a good question in regards to differentiating something. There are government regulations by your government, by the US government for importing, exporting. The social compliance is the brands, not the governments usually, but the brands' expectations, the brands, the customers' requirements, and sometimes they're the same and similar, but they're two separate approaches. One is what you must do to get something out of your country and into another country, and one is what your brand requires of you to be able to place a purchase order with you, and that is what RAP and social compliance is about. What must you do to show your brand that you're a factory that they trust and want to work with, and that's what social compliance is about. The other is regulatory, governmental, both host country, production country, and the country to which you're going to sell to. But it's a good differentiation.
Thank you. So there are the links also in there. Thank you, Bulisile, for posting them. One on regional garment export training webinar, another one on cross-border toolkit, and part 1 and part 2 of the cross-border toolkit. As we progress, now we will get into the final stage where we will have Tammy Dlamini, Eswatini country representative, to provide closing remarks, and he will also give us some next steps. I know George also touched on some of the next steps in terms of how do we then engage going forward. Tammy will also provide a bit of clarification on that as he closes. Tammy is a country representative for USA Trade Hub in Eswatini, where he's responsible for facilitating linkages between exporting firms, buyers, and capital providers, as well as supporting small and medium enterprises that are interested in accessing export markets. Tammy, please take us on.
Thank you very much, Marina. I can see Bart's hand is still up. I'm not sure if it's a trailing hand.
Is it Bart?
Okay.
Is it a trailing one? Probably a trailing one.
Okay.
Is it gone now?
Oh, okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay, sorry about that.
Thank you very much to all participants for joining us for this very important webinar on RAP certification. This is quite critical because we would like to see firms from our countries export to the different destinations, and this is it's imperative, especially the ethical part of RAP, because no brand will want to accept high-risk items into their stable. So the next steps, this particular webinar that we have, we've had like all other webinars, will be available on our website. So to access the videos and the presentations from this and previous webinars, you can visit the Sati Hub website, and there's quite a lot of material there that you can pick up, especially because webinars by their nature are fast-paced. So you'll be able to spend your time there and pick up what you can, and also be able to ask questions or respond to the emails that are there. Upcoming events. On December 8, we have the Regional Exporters Awards, which is honoring exporters from the different countries. We had National Exporters Awards, and the winners there are then going to compete. And this day on the 8th, this is where they will be awarded for excellence in exports. This is a hybrid event which will be held in the Eastern Cape, but we will send the links to our partners so that you can join us virtually. And then on December 9, we have a presentation on e-commerce with a partner that we have in South Africa. We know that e-commerce is a growing concept, and with the restrictions in movement, e-commerce is becoming much greater and more important than before. So we are also expecting that firms who would like to trade, especially with South Africa, and will participate in this so that we can link them to the partner that we have that will help them to access e-commerce and be prepared to meet customers on the different e-commerce platforms. And then each of the countries where the USA Trade Hub works has country representatives. Those are the contact details for the country representatives, and it is through these reps that you'll also be able to access the services provided by the USA Trade Hub. Please contact them, and they will help with some of the questions that we had today, but any other questions, and then they'll also guide you through the process. As George had indicated, we do work with firms and we cost share with firms to attain certification as part of enhancing trade. So please, if you are interested in RAP, contact your country representative, and then you can start the process. And if you qualify, then we can work on cost sharing. We urge firms to do this quickly because the year is going by, and as you heard, this is our final financial year. So we'd like to start the processes as quickly as possible. Thank you very much once again for joining us, and from the USA Trade Hub, have a safe day, and thank you. All the best.
Thank you very much, Tammy. And as everyone prepares to step out of the meeting, let me also, you heard me introducing Tammy as the country representative for Eswatini. That is as of today, because starting from tomorrow, Tammy will now be assuming the role of being portfolio manager for the Lesotho, Eswatini, Mozambique, and Angola cluster. So we thought this would be a good opportunity to also introduce him, seeing also that most of the participants come from this cluster, but it's also important for those in Malawi, those in South Africa, and in other countries to also know, because we'll be interacting with him a lot also going forward in our activities with you. Thank you very much, and thank you for participating. We will definitely send through the reference materials following this webinar. Thank you.